Good morning, Guam, and thanks for starting your day the KUAM way with our morning meeting. Remember, every weekday morning we have a Facebook Live show, and tomorrow we got group chat with yours truly, Chris Barnett, but that's not today. Today, morning meeting, so we're kind of giving you a heads up on what we're working on for this week.
Yeah, and it was actually a very busy weekend
Right.
with the arrests for the Yigo shooting. Joshua Palacios and the other guy,
Tomas Titan.
Tomas
Tomas
Taichner,
Teichner. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm still tired. And then there was a third person that was arrested, Jaylene Kabe, but she wasn't necessarily charged in the murder, but she was arrested on a warrant violation. But she nonetheless was questioned for several hours, and one of the three that was brought in by CID agents early Saturday morning. And then, of course, Titano and Palacios, the magistrate's complaint came out on Saturday. Joshua was charged with murder, and then Titano was charged with a whole bunch of other charges, from assault to a leading police officer.
For those who may not be familiar with the case, just give us a background of what
Yeah.
they are charged with.
So, as I mentioned, well, the case stems from the shooting on July 28th in Yigo along Toon Fred
Fred Cabeza
Cabeza
Street.
Street, right? So, I was actually there that night. Saw two medics going in and out. I heard that it was Keith Castro that had been shot. And so since then, that was Sunday, then Tuesday, the
So
wanted
APB,
flyer. Yeah, the
right,
wanted
yeah.
flyer came out for Titano. And everybody had been waiting to see, what was going on. And then Friday night, we had received the tip that Joshua Palacios was taken in for questioning, and that earlier that day that Titano had actually self-surrendered. And so by early that morning, Saturday, I went down to the Agana precinct because I was like, eventually they're going to have to come down here to be processed. And sure enough, I think it was like 1 o'clock in the morning.
That was a great job getting all that
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
too. I mean,
Awesome.
you tried to talk to them, too, as well,
Yeah,
right?
Titano, when he was the first one to be brought in, and so when he came in, I just gave him the opportunity to have a comment, and he said, I didn't do anything. And then after he came in, and I didn't even recognize Titano.
They did look different from their mugshots.
Yeah,
they
from the
looked it, actually.
wanted flyer, it was a completely different person. That's why I was like, who is this? And
Maybe
so,
he was on a diet because they both look way thinner than.
I have no comment. But yeah, so Titano comes in, then maybe 30, 40 minutes later, Palacios comes in, and then maybe 30 minutes after that, Kabe comes in, and I had no idea because her name hadn't been mentioned, and so I was like, who is that? And who's this third person, and what's the connection? So I couldn't get any comment from GPD, the spokesperson, and eventually I found out who it was and noticed that she did have a record.
So maybe she was like, maybe those guys were at her house or something. I don't know. I'm just
Well, from
guessing.
what I understand, when they picked up Palacios, and I'm hearing that she may be his girlfriend, they picked her up and questioned her, like I said, for several hours, and then
And the magistrate's complaint was pretty detailed about what happened on the incident in which Castro was killed.
right. So Titano is accused of beating him with a baton.
He was there to sell a car? Was that?
Well,
Yeah.
you know, you can't really. It wasn't
seems
really
like they-
specific.
right.
So all it said was that Castro, the victim, was there. He had a car. He was selling, and then all of a sudden, Titano started fighting, and Titano struck him with a baton. Then Palacios came in and he held the gun and he shot him once, and then they both split and they fled.
As Castro was trying to flee, apparently he was trying
Right,
to flee
and
the
he fell.
Right, he fell. He slipped
altercation.
and fell.
He fell,
Right,
and then that's when
Titano
he allegedly got
began.
shot. Yeah.
Well, Titano allegedly began striking him, and then that's when Palacios came in and shot him, and then they both left.
So it kind of sounds like,
But they didn't say why were they fighting. Was it over the car? And
Right.
then and these were through witness accounts, so we obviously know there was more people there.
Yeah.
So Interesting. And even
Yeah.
during the magistrate's hearing Saturday afternoon, which Adriana was at, you could hear in the audio how they were trying to secure an attorney for Palacios, and there were conflicts with the public defender and the alternate public defender because of the possible representation of a witness in the case. So then they appointed Jay Areola to represent Palacios.
He got a great attorney.
Man.
Right,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
free attorney. And
That's
so
the luck of the draw, I think, because
Yeah.
Jay is one of the list
yeah.
of.
And so today,
appointees.
Jay's supposed to, they continued his hearing for this afternoon, which Adriana's going to be at, and we'll have that story later today.
Yeah.
So Areola is supposed to appear.
And a lot of people were talking about the similarities. I mean, one of the statements that we heard coming out
Palacios.
was that Palacios said that he'd been smoking ice for 5 days and he blacked out.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean,
And
a lot of people were
doesn't
talking about
remember
the
where-
Tory
yeah.
defense and the alcohol blackout. And
So,
it's just
and
terrible.
even
Yeah,
in
terrible.
the magistrate's complaint with Titano, it said that he told the detectives or police that he admitted to striking Castro.
So he didn't
but-
not do anything.
Well, but when I spoke with him, he said he didn't do anything.
Well,
So
what else are you going to say?
Well,
yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how this all, what the specific details are, and if
So
there
yeah,
are
I mean,
more
I think
pending.
I'm wondering, like, did they lure him there, or did they show up?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are they connected? Because it just seems like Titano was allegedly beating him, and he fell, and then he beat him some more, and then
Palacios
shot
came
him.
in and
Yeah,
shot
so-
Yeah. And all those details will obviously come out
Right,
as
yeah.
the case and
Yeah.
investigation progresses.
And you know, we had all been waiting because the charges were waiting to see when they were going to upgrade it from a death investigation or shooting investigation to homicide. And so this that afternoon, when the magistrate's complaint came out, it was a homicide charge or a murder charge. Because okay, so I guess the autopsy had been completed to upgrade the charge.
Yeah, and the third person that was taken into custody
Yeah.
has not been charged. There has not been.
Not
a
in connection
magistrate's-
to this
It was
murder
a separate.
necessarily.
It was a separate.
Some kind of
Well,
warrant charge or
she,
something, you know.
yeah, it was a warrant
Outstanding
violation,
warrant.
but she was with Palacios
Right.
when they.
But I
took
think
him
we
home.
need to also have the conversation. I mean, these guys aren't checking in with their POs, and what are
parole.
the parole guys doing?
Yeah, they
I
were
mean,
both-
we had a whole incident with this guy who raped a little girl. Same,
Hoffman's.
you know,
Yeah.
deal where you know probation, parole. I mean, a lot of loopholes there, and it seems like these hardened criminals are taking advantage of those loopholes.
Yeah. And, you know, and that's just one of the stories again that we're a big story that we're working
Yeah,
on
yeah.
for today.
We do have a shout out though.
You have a shout out?
All the way from California. Tomas Manglonia II. I
Hey.
believe we know
Hi,
him. He goes,
Tomas.
miss you all. I'm in Berkeley right now and I got there safe.
We
How
miss you.
was the AAJA?
Yeah,
Tomas?
he was a presenter.
Right?
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Congratulations. Proud of you.
Good job.
And you know, these two mass shootings over the weekend.
Oh, my
yeah.
goodness. Yeah.
I just came
El
from,
Paso.
they had a flag raising ceremony at the legislature, and they threw in a moment of silence to kind of respect those who were killed, and
Is it,
two
Ohio?
shootings.
Was it Ohio?
It was Ohio.
Dayton,
Dayton,
Ohio,
Ohio.
and El Paso, Texas, and I think there's a major base there, Fort Hood. It's an army base, and
Fort Bliss. I
Fort,
think
is it Fort Bliss?
I
Yeah,
think.
and so I'm sure that we've
Yeah,
got
there
a
was
tomorrow.
when we posted the story, there was
community over
somebody
there.
who actually commented, who said that she actually goes to that particular Walmart all the time, and she was actually going to go
Wow.
to that Walmart, and so you know we're probably going to reach out to her today and see if she'd like to say
Yeah,
anything.
so now the raging debate over gun control reemerges, and also thrown in there is the discussion or debate over the president, whether he's involved in heightening these the racism charges that
Yeah.
so yeah, I was monitoring that. Unfortunately, it rained this weekend, so no golf.
So you had a lot of time to
So
monitor.
I had a lot of
stuff.
time to watch the national news, and yeah, it was very tragic. I mean, and the national media, they were just stumbling over some because they had. I'm sure they sent reporters over to
Right, El Paso.
El Paso, and then all of a sudden,
What happened in
late
Dayton, Ohio?
that night they
It's
had
the
to send it over.
251st mass shooting in like 216 days or something.
It's
Pretty
it
sad.
needs to be.
And our
it's
prayers,
not
of course,
resolved.
goes out to everyone
Oh,
in those states.
what are you working on this week?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I know. Not a murder meeting.
I gotta get to my computer. I'm sure
Right,
there's
so-
plenty of stuff
Right,
for us
right.
to
A
do.
lot of stuff.
Yeah, so yeah, probably be a busy week as
Yeah,
usual. So,
yeah.
yeah.
What about you? You just came from something.
You know, I think this week everyone's going to be trying to get Lieutenant Governor on that Aggie raise. It kind of things happened pretty fast last week. It went from discovering this document to Adelup saying that there was room in the budget and that it was a move made to align
Wasn't sanctioned.
Aggie's salary with the rest of the cabinet. Then the next day they said it was a mistake. It was an error.
Error.
And so then the next day they came out and said like, oh, well, we got some documents, and turned out Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio signed off on the raise. And you know, once like BBMR and DOA get these documents and they're all signed off on them, it's not
Yeah.
really their job to vet it anymore. I mean,
'Cause
that's
it was
pretty much a
already
rubber
vetted,
stamp.
yeah.
So
I think it should be clear to you know, leadership that the public doesn't have an appetite for raises at this particular point in time.
Right.
I mean, you can see the
Yeah.
outcry to your stories about Adjutant General Agigi, and there's also with the CCU and their attempts to. And this has nothing to do about whether or not these people are deserving of it, because you can
Right.
make that case.
Sure.
But I don't think at this particular point, based on the public reaction that we get
yeah,
on social
yeah.
media,
I mean, you got
that the
the
appetite is there
BPT
for-
thing too, is where the governor came out and said that, hey, we're not going to lower the BPT. We need the money. And then I'm pretty sure, you know, the chamber, the businesses are going to have something to say about this raise and, you know, what they think are other imprudent ways of spending. So, oh, there you go. That's our morning meeting. Obviously, a full week of stories on the way for you guys. On behalf of Sabrina and Esther, thanks so much for watching.
Bye.